everyone! So, on the ESO subreddit, someone posted a question asking what the community wants to see for the new trial set for healers, which is interesting, and I think it could lead to a good video, so here we go. First off, because this is a trial set, it means we're able to do a little bit more powerful effects than you would be able to get out of a dungeon or overland set. Trial sets are the only source of Slayer and Aegis buffs, and for a while, there was the primary consistent source of Major Courage as well. So we can do more than we could do with any other type of set. Secondly, we're designing with healers in mind, so we should think about the competition. If I'm designing a set that I want to actually be used, it has to be on par with, or even better than, existing sets. So let's start there. The healer meta right now, at least in my experience, is to have the group healer in either Oldarime or Spell Power Cure, depending on how spread out the fight's going to be, and another damage buff set, often using Martial Knowledge, but could just as easily be Elemental Catalyst or Powerful Assault, along with Symphony of Blades. The off-healer, meanwhile, is running Roaring Opportunist and Yorvald's Guidance with Spalder of Ruin. While these things can be changed for the most part, you want to be able to give out Major Courage, Major Slayer, and any other damage buffs you can fit in. So if we're adding a set, where do we fit it? Either we need a more consistent Major Slayer proc to phase out Roaring Opportunist, which I don't think would be healthy for the game, or we need to outpace sets like Martial Knowledge and Elemental Catalyst as the group healer. So with that in mind, we need something to do that. What are our options? After thinking about it, my first instinct is to try and have it do something we want already, but that just kind of means we're building a better mousetrap, and sets like that, like for example Saxhleel, tends to go more on the off-tank than any of the healers. There's also a damage buff set for basically every method, save for, as far as I can tell, one: Maximum Resources. Most people don't think about Maximum Resources as a damage buff, but the higher your total maximum resources, the more damage you deal with skills that use those resources, which is part of what makes Warhorn such a good ultimate for supports. So what if this new set buffs that? Now that we know what we want to do, let's look a little bit more at the specifics parts of it. I'm not going to worry too much in this video about lines 2, 3, and 4, as they're a little less important for the balance. If I have to throw out an idea now, Magicka Recovery, Minor Aegis, and Magicka Recovery with Perfected adding a line of Maximum Magicka, but there's two things we need to think about: the total number of resources given, and the proc condition. Let's start with the easier one to think about, and go with the proc condition. We need a way to start giving this buff out. Common examples are toggles, like Spalder, an activation, like Roaring, a skill, like Powerful Assault, or a condition effect, like Martial Knowledge. I feel like it should be something you have to work to maintain, so toggle is out. And while a skill activation could be interesting, as could a conditional effect, I don't have a lot of ideas for those that aren't, done to death already. So let's table both of those for now. I do like the triggerable nature, and I kind of want to go with something like it, but heavy attacks are pretty common, and while I think that is probably the way to go, I kind of want to do a different idea. What if our set grants stacks on light attacks, increasing one effect before bursting outwards to grant this resource buff at a number of stacks? I like this idea, so let's think a little more specifically for a moment. 12-meter range is pretty standard, so we'll roll with that for our final buff range. We can build around the stack per second. So if we want to have a 5-second charge up time and then a 10-second activation, it reaches 5 stacks before granting the buff, and said buff lasts for 10 seconds. Lower total uptime than Roaring, but a little bit easier to maintain without much thought. Secondly, we need to know how much of a buff this can be. Warhorn, our primary support ultimate, is a 10% maximum resource, so we want less than that. If I had to wager, I'd say around 5% for a nice even number, or maybe an 8% if we think that 5% is too low. Looking at it, I also want something that scales based on the player. Maybe make it more like Roaring Opportunist again, and make it the user's stats affect the cap. Maybe if we make it the user's Magicka Recovery affects it going up to 10%. It means we're still on par with Warhorn in our best case scenario, but only if the healer builds for maximum sustain, which could be a detriment in other areas. Finally, based on the trailer for the new expansion, Storm and Lightning things could be fitting. So, here's my end result. Storm Herald's Calling, Light Armor Set. 2 items, 129 Magicka Recovery. 3 items, gain Minor Aegis at all times, reducing your damage taken from dungeon, trial, and arena monsters by 5%. 4 items, gain 129 Magicka Recovery. 5 items perfected, gain 1096 maximum Magicka. 5 items. When you deal damage to an enemy with a light attack, you gain a stack of Storm Herald's Call, granting you 19 Magicka Recovery per stack. When you gain 5 stacks, all stacks are consumed as a Tempest bursts from you, giving all allies within 12 meters of you 10% maximum Magicka and stamina based on your Magicka regeneration. Do I know how the back-end calculation would work for on Zos's end? No. Do I think the set is good? Yeah. It's a damage and sustain set that's not entirely difficult to keep up and doesn't break bosses. Maybe it should be a little harder to maintain. I think that dropping the stacks mechanic and just making it give up to 8% on a heavy attack would also just be good. But for now, I think as a interesting idea, that's pretty much good enough. Let me know what you all think down in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, good luck, stay safe, and don't die.